Sesay.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Well, I appreciate all of you guys showing up today because what we're going to talk about is portrait patterns. Is anyone here familiar with what portrait patterns are? Me either, right? So we'll all learn something here today. Basically what portrait patterns are is like the relationship of your main light to your subject's face. And it's a great way to communicate ultimately like where you want a light positioned relative to someone's face. Do I think some of them should go away? Absolutely. At the end of this, we'll talk about the portrait patterns that should absolutely go away. And I have to think if I have all of them memorized. So I also want to shoot, like I think that I kind of want to create like a portfolio. Would you like to walk away with some images? You just want to walk away, right? That's it. But I do want to give a hand to our wonderful model, Deshani's here. And she's expecting, so one more hand for the baby. So we may turn this into like a little mini maternity shoot too, because we have a mini studio. If you want to, I couldn't help it. I see you can't say anything. I'm live.
My fault.
Now.
Ab can't work in small studios. It's not my fault. My fault.
So the first lighting pattern we're going to talk about is Paramount lighting. Other people call it butterfly lighting. They call it butterfly lighting because it leaves this little shadow underneath the nose. And we'll get an idea of what that looks like. I'm going to have you look directly at me. Perfect. Sit up a little straighter if you can. I know you got it in your system. All right. And I'm going to start with just one light here, basically using a Profoto. This is actually the white zoom reflector with a 20-degree grid in it. And as I go, feel free to interrupt and ask questions. That's what makes this unbelievable and why all of you guys showed up here today. And I love when I get questions asked. Because I think I have the answer, and if I don't, then Seth jumps in and he answers for me. So it just all works out perfectly.
It's a group effort. It's community.
Absolutely.
There we go.
For those who want to know, I'm at ISO 80, the native ISO of my GFX 100 the second, at 1/125th of a second. And I'm going to go in starting at about F8, and we're going to see what butterfly lighting looks like. So we have to make every picture count, right? So you know what to do. I was waiting for you to laugh. So looking right at me. Perfect. And your head straight on. Beautiful. And I love the mood we have going here. But you see this shadow right here under her nose? That's why they call it butterfly lighting, because they feel like this, I say they, right? Like I disagree with the entire world. Feels as though that is why they call it butterfly lighting, but it's also called Paramount lighting because back in the day at Paramount Studios, people would love this sort of lighting because it's very flattering on the face. So the one thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up just a little bit because I want it to be a touch brighter. Or I could add a fill light. Which direction do you guys think I should go? Fill light or open up a little bit? Hey, thank you. I see somebody had their coffee, even though I was denied my coffee. So now I'm going to add.
You don't deal with you when you drink coffee. I got to deal with you when you drink coffee.
I deal with this every single day.
Do you remember when you were on Twitch? Do you have any idea how fast you were talking?
People loved it. People loved it. I'm very sensitive to caffeine, so it can be quite entertaining. So now I'm going to add a fill light in. There's a question in the chat. What's the question?
Vegar's asking, why do you measure the light at the forehead and not the chin?
Because I know the forehead is going to be the brightest part. So when I'm metering light, the one thing I understand is the topography of the face. And so I know that the forehead, and if you look at the picture, is most likely going to be where I start to get a little bit overexposed. So if I metered at the chin, it would give me an exposure that would be a little bit lower. I'm really worried about the forehead in terms of like where I'm metering at. And if you look at this, you can see her forehead is completely properly exposed. And once we get down to her chin, it could be a bit under. But let me show you something. Here, I'm just gonna have her bring her chin up, getting rid of that butterfly shadow. So same thing, so I'm gonna have you bring your chin up just a little bit more, even a little bit more. Perfect. You can even incorporate your hands into it to kind of push your chin up a touch more. Perfect. So without me changing anything, just a slight position of her face. Now I bring more of her face into the light, even though I do have my fill light on this one. And so now looking at this, I would ask myself, If I wanted dark and moody, I would kind of keep it here. But if I wanted something that was a little bit brighter or higher key, I could either do what? Bring up my fill light or open up my exposure. Me, I like to properly expose and then do any adjustments in post so that I can have the most dynamic range within an image. The more I start to open up, what's going to happen is the highlights in her forehead are slowly going to start to blow out, and I'd rather have detail there. Especially with this camera, I have a huge amount of shadow detail. Like I could underexpose by like 5 stops and then bring it back up and it would still look good. But it's not going to give me the best signal to noise ratio and the best image quality possible. So that's why I like to shoot the exposure right on to take full advantage of the sensor, or why spend the money on a nice camera, you know? So now what I'm going to do is basically build my fill light up. Do you guys want to bring it up a stop or half a stop? Half a stop. First, I'm gonna let you see what it looks like all by itself. So now I'm gonna take a picture of my fill light all by itself. Now looking at that, do you want me to bring that up a half a stop or a full stop? Full stop. So now I'm gonna bring my fill light up. So now that I have my lights roughly dialed in, I know that my fill light on my main light, it's easy for me just to add a stop. And I'll give you guys a quick before and after so you can look like when I add a stop to that. Perfect. Why do you make this so easy? 1 second, I forgot to turn one light off. Let me do this one more time. With just the fill light moved up a stop. And you can see the difference. Now, I'm just starting to fill my shadows in a lot more. Some people would even go with this exposure. I think creatively it could look really cool. But now we're gonna put our main light back on, and we bring in our shadows up again simply by raising our fill light. So I'm gonna raise it up another half a stop, and this way we incorporate the person who wanted a full stop and the person who wanted a half a stop.
Cliff says hi.
Hey, Cliff, what a compromise. It's now looking right into the camera. Beautiful. And so now we see the image with my fill light incorporated. I'll give you a quick before and after so you can see what that looks like. Looking right into the camera, and try not to move so we can give them a nice before and after. That's without the fill light. That's with the fill light. So you can see that our fill light is doing a lot of heavy lifting, and my edge light snuck itself on. I didn't want to show that one yet. But you can kind of, let me do that one more time without the edge light. 1 second. Looking right into the camera, not moving. You're doing a great job. And I'm adding the fill light back in, and you'll see the fill light pop up on screen. And there you can start to see the before and after. I'll bring both of them up on screen. And you can see a lot of people would look at this exposure and say it's too dark, and their first thing would be, let me open up and make everything brighter. Oftentimes the solution is in lighting, right? Either I would choose a different light shaper that's broader, or I would add a fill light, but the exposure is actually dead on. And some people try to compensate with bad lighting by under or overexposing. I think you need to figure out what you need to do lighting wise, because now the exposure is dead on, that I add the fill light just to bring my shadows up. I think when it comes to defining a problem in a photograph, you have to think and talk in a complete sentence. So when you look at this image on the left, you have to tell yourself, okay, I like the way it looks. It feels underexposed just because there's so much shadow. So the problem I want to solve is opening those up. I'm not going to do that by starting to move shadow sliders. I'm going to add another light. And I'm also not going to start to overexpose my image, in which I would start to lose detail in the highlights, because as I got the question before, why did I meter at the forehead? It's because I know that's where I'm going to start to get overexposed. The forehead, the bridge of the nose, all those areas.
Got a question in the chat.
Yes.
They're asking if the position of the photographer impacts the fill a lot, like you're standing in front of it.
Not only the position of the photographer, but the size of the photographer, right? Some of you guys are going to block a lot more of this fill than I am. From experience, I know that I'm gonna knock about, on this light at this distance, I'm probably gonna knock out about maybe 3/4 of a stop. So as I'm metering it, I'm kind of taking that into position. And even as I'm shooting, if you saw, when I start out, I raise this light so it's a little bit above me. If the lower this is and the closer I get to her, the more that light I'm gonna block. So if I did get really close to her, I would even turn this up even more, or I would choose a much larger fill. But this is like NPR Tiny Desk, so I can't bring too large of a fill in here. I know you love it, Seth.
It just separates, you know, people can shoot and people can't. That's all, you know.
I like that one. So now we're gonna bring in a little separation light, which it's snuck on before. And then we're gonna dive through these portrait patterns and start to like build a little portfolio.
They're asking about what gel that is.
The gel I'm using it's called steel green. I forget the exact name of it, but it's a steel green gel. Does anybody want a piece? I have an extra piece. No, do you have scissors? We'll cut it up at the end of the show and everybody can get a little piece.
We'll make it into speed light size for everybody.
Yeah, so now that I know that my main exposure is at f8, and I'm gonna add this little edge light. And I'm gonna bring it in around f4. The reason I'm bringing it in so low is because her skin is very moist, has really good shine to it, and anytime you have a light kind of at that direct angle, you're kind of getting like a polarized reflection on the face. So even though I meter it at, let's say, f4, it's gonna look like it's 5.6, just because of the position of that relative to the camera. So you always hear people ask, I didn't turn my meter on, like, should I point my meter towards the camera or towards the light? Clearly in this position here, if I pointed it towards the camera, it would be doing me no use. So therefore I point the meter towards the light, because what I'm trying to do is balance all of my lights together. And so here I see I was at 5.68. I'm gonna turn that down till I get to about f4.
Which light meter is that?
This is the Sekonic L858. But you could do this with any of the meters in the Sekonic line. I'm basically using it in cordless mode. You see me triggering the flash with this in my camera. And when I press the measure button here, the meter just starts waiting for a flash to go off. And we're gonna see what it looks like 2 stops under our main light to start with. And you can still kind of look directly towards me. Perfect. Beautiful job. And so now here you can see I have this really nice little soft, warm glow. I like it because it almost makes it feel like there's like a little room light in the room. What happens when I shoot it at exposure? I'm gonna go to power 6.4, which should probably bring this to about f8. I'm gonna take another photo so you guys can see it before and after. Now I even get more of kind of like a warm glow when I shoot it at what I would call like proper exposure. And so there's always proper exposure, and then there's creative exposure. And creatively, I like it 2 stops underneath, because I'm just looking for it to give me like a slight little glow. And now I'm gonna build all my lights up together. So I'm gonna start with just our edge light. And if you could hold very still so everyone can see the lights build up. Here's our edge light. Here's our fill light. And here's our main light. Beautiful job. Can I get a hand for our model here, holding perfectly still, like the human? And so now you can see what happens is I start to build all these different light sources up. And so now the fun thing is, now that I know what everything is in relation to each other, it's easy for me to quickly dial in other looks, because I kind of know what all of my lights are set to. So let's say if I wanted like perfectly soft flat light, I could basically turn off everything. And for perfectly soft flat light, what light am I gonna have on? Yes, the fill light. I'm glad I gave you the gel. See, the people who sit up front. And so it metered about 2 stops below. So I'm simply gonna open up from f8 to f4. I thought that was a bomb about to go off. This is, I'm gonna take another photograph. And now that's what my fill light looks all by itself. Now, a lot of people ask, why do you use a light meter? And does it save you time? I didn't have to guess to get there, and my exposure is perfect. Once I metered all my lights, I know what everything is set to. If my client's like, oh, that's a little bit too moody, turn off the other 2 lights, I go to that, I'm good to go. The one thing you guys haven't seen me do at all is guess on exposure. You'll find a lot of people will start out, take a test, take another test, take another test. Every picture should count. And so the reason I use a meter personally is once I get set in my head where everything is, then now I can easily make all these different creative changes. Because I think of lighting as like levers. My main light is a lever, my fill light is a lever, and my accent light is a lever, and I can use all of them to develop different looks. So now we're gonna go through that. We're gonna talk about portrait patterns. I'm gonna throw one of them out, and we're gonna build a little quick portfolio. How am I doing on time? I'm doing excellent on time. Yes, I have a question. Why did you have to tell me that that exists there? It's like a ticking time bomb now, like right above my head.
I'm gonna say the word bomb or live. What are you doing?
Don't worry, YouTube will be okay. My name's Abdullah. It's not like they're gonna make a relation.
All right, let's move on. Let's move on.
Cool, so now we're gonna build a little portfolio. Can I have you stand up for me really quickly? So, I got this. So the first thing I wanna do is I'm gonna bring this in as my main light, and we're gonna have Paramount lighting, right? Then I'm gonna quickly switch to flat lighting, and then I'm going to go over and use short lighting. I almost forgot what to call it, right? And I'm gonna put a quick portfolio together of how many images should I do? Should I do 30? Is that a good number? Like a roll of film, let's do 36, right? All right. No, because my GFX has film mode. Watch this. Now I have 36 exposures that I have to take before I have to make any changes. I thought it was funny. So the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start with all of our lights on. And I can't remember, did I turned our fill light up. I'm gonna remeter our fill light real quick. I can't remember if I turned it up or if I adjusted exposure to get, actually I can tell by looking here. Yep, I adjusted exposure, it's right where it needs to be. So the first thing I'm gonna start is with all of our lights on. I'm gonna have you move over to the right just a little bit, come forward just a touch, move over to the left just a little bit. So I'm trying to center you on this light, and I'm gonna move you back just a little bit more. Yes, and I'm gonna kind of keep your chin up for all the poses. Perfect. In this light, I'm just gonna bring it so it edges you out just a little bit more. And our fill light, nothing needs to happen there. So if we could start and kind of give me like 2 hands kind of on the belly, one on the top, one on the bottom. Beautiful. And we kind of keep the chin up. I love that. And I'll shoot everything horizontal because it looks better on screen, but normally a shot like this, I'd probably do it vertically. Perfect. I'm always good for a question.
They're asking if this all applies to constant lighting as well.
This all applies to constant lighting. So I see I do have one shadow that's creeping in, and I actually don't know where that's coming from. It's probably from here. I just got to move this back just a little bit. My fill lights give me a shadow of this light that I didn't see because of all the video lights. So I'm just going to move this back just a little bit. And based on that adjustment, normally I'd remeter it, but I'm just going to bring it up, let's say 2/10 of a stop. Perfect. And we're going to start this all over again. Beautiful job. And we're going to go for 10 frames. Love, and feel free to switch it up just a little bit. Now face me directly with the same pose. Even more straight on. Yes, perfect. Same pose, but just more straight on. Right now you're still tilted that way just a little bit. I want you to kind of turn this way, kind of straight towards the camera, and center yourself under the light just a little bit more. Perfect. And then after the first shot, you can give me 10 different poses. Love. Perfect. You can adjust the hand positions. Love. Perfect. And now some with kind of eyes closed. Thank you. Love. 2 more with the eyes closed. Love that. Beautiful job. Now we're going to quickly move to a different style of lighting in which I'm going to turn off my main light. I'm going to turn off my accent light. There was a question?
Well, no, they're just asking about your denim shirt. So I don't know.
Oh.
I wasn't going to derail your
It
demo.
allows me to be recognized. So now I'm going to move to flat lighting from Paramount lighting. And again, we're going to go for 10 frames. Beautiful job. Love.
I mean, you guys here can
Great.
ask
And
questions.
you can give me
too,
a
you know.
perfect profile.
So
Come to the side, yes. And kind of both hands underneath. Yes, love that. 4. Love. Last one. Love that. Beautiful profile. Great job. Now we have a completely different lighting setup. So this would be for someone who wants something like a little bit edgier. It kind of gives you the feel of on-camera flash, but not. And so now the next thing we're going to do is move over. And we're going to go into short lighting. Short lighting is really good. After I take this photo, this doesn't apply to her, but I want to hear you guys' comments on when you would do this. Let's say if her and I switch positions in this shot, what it would do. And now I'm gonna have you still turn towards that light for me. So now that she's turned towards that light, we kind of have short lighting. And I want you to bring your face back towards me just a touch. Perfect. Love. And again, 10 frames. I do want to double check this one because this is that one light that I moved. And I can see I want to make a few more adjustments here. I'm gonna remeter it one more time, but my guess is what I'm gonna end up doing is changing the position because it's giving us too much of an edge. And the dress is eating up too much light. Yeah, now that I go, that light's at f2.07. So I'm gonna turn it up to get it back to f4. Perfect, I'm back to f4. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna wrap the light around her a little bit more. Or do you guys like keeping it really edgy like that? You guys like it edgy? We're gonna go in a little edgy then. But I brought in a little bit more exposure. We okay in the room? Perfect. I am excellent. Thank you for asking, Seth. You've never made me feel so warm and fuzzy inside. Now that we're all
not even when we cuddle. I mean, are
in
you
this
kidding
nice
me?
tight space, I would never cuddle with you. I wouldn't even think about it. Perfect. Now I'm gonna double check that to make sure I like the way that it looks. Ooh, and I like that little separation we get with the little bit of light hitting the background. I'm actually gonna bring that out a little bit more. I'm gonna turn this towards the background a little bit because I like that little separation. What do we call that? A happy accident? Thank you. See, I'm glad if I had more gels, I'll give them to you. Now we're gonna knock out another 10. And you see the mood here is this kind of very warm, somber type of mood. So that's what I wanna dial in. So you're about to laugh. As soon as I say that, I could tell that you just want to laugh your way through these. But give me like just 10 frames. You're just kind of very calm, very introspective. You're thinking about the baby. You can look down at the stomach for some of these. Do you think about your baby and just laugh? Yes. Perfect. That's nice. Love. Love. Great job. Beautiful. Fantastic. Can we give a hand for this girl? I mean, come on now. But you see, now we're in a short lighting position. Why do we call this short lighting? Because yes. We're lighting the short side of her face. And so if we zoom in, this side of her face is considered the short side, and this would be the broad side. And so that's why we call it short lighting. And we can see, again, we're starting, this is a 3-light setup. Yes? Yeah, so this light has a grid on it. There's a little circle of light on the backdrop, which is spill. And the cracks in the backdrop almost make it feel like a painted backdrop. So I'm running with that. But what you're running into here is that we have some spill coming out of the grid and hitting the backdrop. And I like it because it's giving a little separation because it's so dark, you know? And most people would take this and they would go into like their adjustments and they would be like, open up all the shadows, you know, but right there, I think it's beautiful and subtle. And so now that we start to put our portfolio together, give me 1 second. Would you like to sit down? And here's the box, in case. So already, I'm just gonna pick random photos because I pretty much know everything that we got here is money. But now we're starting to put a portfolio together in which I haven't moved lights. I'm just pulling levers, turning lights on and on, off and on, to get multiple different looks. So if you have a basement or a bedroom studio, the lighting setup I have right now, you can do with 8-foot ceilings, right? I always get people online who are like, you have this big studio, that's the only way you can do that. I start out working in the smallest spaces humanly possible. And so coming and doing this here should show you that this is pretty easy. And you can do this with speed lights, you can do this with any lights. It's just a basic reflector with a 20-degree grid on it. And so the cool thing is when you start thinking in terms of portrait patterns, which quite honestly, I think they shouldn't exist, but it's a great way to communicate. I'm only saying that so I can get someone riled up in the chat. Like, I kind of don't care, but who knows, right? So next, what do we want to go for? Someone give me a mood.
Light and airy.
Light and airy? Yeah. All right, so someone wants us to go light and airy. So what I'm gonna do, there's 2 ways I could do this. A, I can move all my lights around, right? And reset things, or I could think in a complete sentence, what do I want to do to make this image lighter and airier, right? Question? One thing I'm going to do, but I'm also going to think about other levers I can pull, meaning right now it's very popular, or people kind of doing this like reverse vignette. And then also I currently have a gel on this light. How can I like quickly cancel that out? So light and airy, I see it being more of a neutral color versus like too cool or too warm. So in my head, I'm gonna put a complete sentence together and say, in order to make this image light and airy, A, I wanna try to get the background brighter. So I'm gonna move her closer to it so there's less fall off. Digitally, I may throw in a little bit of a reverse vignette just so the edges don't get as dark. And when it comes to the pose, maybe something where like she's looking in the camera and her eyes kind of look like nice and kind of filled with light. And I may also call in a reflector where I can bounce a little bit more light up into her face so everything feels like a little bit more light and airy. You know, this is actually great because the client can come and say, I want this to feel light and airy. I have to translate that into what are my next moves on set. So I'm thinking make everything brighter, make everything a little bit more neutral, open up just a little bit. So maybe now I start to creatively overexpose a touch to figure out what light and airy is. So let's see if I can get there in one move.
Yeah, one question asking, how often do you test shoot for your lighting?
All the time. I don't even know how to answer. I would probably say if there's 365 days in a year, probably 200 of them, easily. So let's pull some levers. First thing I'm gonna do is bring you close to the background. So you stand up for me. I'm just gonna move the chair close to the background. Because now I'm not gonna be dealing with fall off the same way. And here's the box. So my background is automatically gonna get brighter. 2, marking where this was, is there like a little roll of gaff tape? Well, I know I could see pretty much where this is. So now that I'm moving a light, I'm gonna mark it. I'm just gonna put it on the floor. I'm not gonna actually, yeah. So here, I'm just gonna put a roll of tape on the floor. Because when I hear light and airy, I know that the closer I get my light source to our model, it's going to feel softer because it's gonna be larger relative to her. So now I'm gonna pull the lever of bringing this light closer. To about right there. And just for you, I'm gonna take my gel off. Oh, this hurts. I'm gonna remove the gel. Can people online see what we're doing, sir? Perfect. So you can see it is the same gel. Actually, I'll give this piece away at the end of the day too. I don't know, it is actually Lee 728. Now, since I moved all this around, I'm gonna take another quick light meter reading. Now, if we had to think of like a light and airy pose, where would we go with that? I know you just looked at me like, you make me jump, I'm gonna kill you. Don't worry. So I think for light and airy, we'll have you like looking up. You'll kind of have like this heavenly expression on your face, kind of like a nice soft smile, and kind of incorporating your hands into it so that your arms feel very light and airy. You can tell me later that I'm full of something, but we're on live right now, so you can't say that right now. So here I'm at like F11.6. I know when I stand in front of this, we're gonna lose a little bit of light. I'm gonna even bring it closer, quite honestly, because the closer I could bring this, the lighter and the airier this is gonna feel. I'll meter that one more time. How are we doing over there, Seth? Perfect, we're at F16 now. I don't wanna be that light and airy. All right, we're like F11. Oh, F11.6 is what I metered at. I'm probably gonna go in and shoot this, my first exposure, like F11, because I'm gonna be blocking a little bit of the light. And if I want to meter how much light I was blocking, I could have her hold the meter and fire it that way. But I'm gonna have you look directly into the camera. And I'm gonna bring in the reflector. And for this, I'm just gonna have her put something like on her lap. We have some white stuff over here. Yeah.
Silver or white?
White, please.
Pizza box or wood?
No, this is fine. It'll be a little bit more rigid. Perfect. So I'm gonna put this right here, but don't worry, I'll hold it. Perfect. And now we're gonna go for light and airy. And it doesn't look very light and airy. So now I'm gonna open up the exposure more, because that's the lever I'm gonna pull in order to get this to look like even lighter. So right now I'm at F11. I'm gonna open up a full stop. And the other thing I would do is I would switch from a white background to a gray background. I mean, a gray background to a white background. No, this is fine. And I'm gonna get a little bit lower so I'm not blocking as much of the light that's hitting kind of below her as we kind of get that vignette going down. So another lever I'm gonna pull is basically getting out of the way more. And I'm gonna sit right here. Perfect. And now, like everybody hates, I'm gonna hold the camera, not holding it up to my eye. But here it makes sense because I'm trying to block less light. Bringing in our reflector. I'm even gonna move out of the way just a little bit. You're doing a great job. So now we're lighter and we're airier. I made an exposure change and I got out of the way as well. And then like we talked before, I'm gonna kind of go to that reverse vignette. To open up the edges and make it feel lighter and airier. Now, is this a perfect example of like light and airy? I could desaturate it a little bit. Pop the contrast. I wouldn't look at this and it doesn't scream light and airy, but from where we were, I feel like it's a significant change to get lighter and airier. And so you can see mentally what I think about in terms of like, okay, what I'm gonna do to get that to translate. Does that make sense? So now we'll go through like a few more portrait patterns. And when my client would look at this, I would tell them like, okay, do you like this? But since we're here and I'm trying to build a portfolio of images, I'm gonna take a few frames because even though I'm not in love with it, I could come back to it and be like, you know what? I really, really love that. So now we're gonna move the chair. If you stand to, yeah, I'm gonna move the chair over there.
They're asking what program you're using.
I'm using Capture One. I'll have you stand up. And I'll be quick. And I'm going to raise this light up a little bit more so I even block less of it. And I'm going to have you stand right in front. Perfect. And now we're in a really small studio. I took Sesay Studio and I cut it in half. Just like the Fuji half frame camera that I'm going to get a free version of by the end of this today. And so now I'm shooting it at 45 and we're going to get me 10 frames. And back up closer to the background. Perfect. Thank you. Love. Love. Perfect. Perfect. Love. Love. Great job. Beautiful. Because I know it's going to look good for one of these, I'm going to change my frame and kind of go in for a beauty shot. And can I have your hands by your face? That's a great place to end. Come on now. So now again, we're starting to put this portfolio together. You have a question? What's next? Someone give me like another problem. Or I'll just continue and you guys can ask questions. So now we're going to go and we're going to talk about Rembrandt lighting. Let me bring your chair back. So in terms of portrait patterns already, we've gone over flat, we've gone over short lighting, we've gone over Rembrandt lighting. I mean, not Rembrandt, Paramount and butterfly lighting. But now I want to talk about Rembrandt lighting. Does anyone here know what Rembrandt lighting is? Yes. Yes, and ideally what you're looking for is this triangle shadow on the opposite side of the face. And why would we use this? What if your client looks at your images and says, you know what? They look at your images and they tell, for those who didn't see what happened, something just dropped and I thought that it was going to be a disaster, but it wasn't. If someone wants to add more dimension to your images is when you start bringing the light from this Paramount position off to the side. So we're going to see what Rembrandt lighting looks like. And we're going to add to our portfolio. Because I want to end this with a full portfolio of images. And up on screen real quick while we wait, I'll put up a series of what we've done so far. As we start to work on our portfolio, we have 4 completely different looks, again, just by moving these small levers. So now I forgot the name of the lighting I was talking about. For Rembrandt lighting, yes. To make my life easier, I'm going to take this off the boom. So with one hand, I can direct it off to the side a little bit more. Because my C-stand doesn't have wheels. That was a joke. Every time I see a C-stand with wheels, I just want to start cracking up laughing.
Stop putting wheels on C-stands that have bent legs. You're going to kill somebody.
As I change this around, I'll tell you what happened. Is that everybody started out with a regular light stand, right? And then these are chrome, shiny, and much stronger. So I think everybody said, you know what, I need that. But the real secret to C-stands is being able to work in tiny spaces. So they're perfect for the studio. And I'm going to move you forward again. I know, Steph. Anytime I can bring up how small this space is.
I would point out that we did a lot in this tiny space, and you're all welcome.
He likes when I make fun of his tiny face.
Go back to Westchester where you got room, okay? This is New York.
So now, I'm not sweating. I'm just happy to see you. Yeah. No, we're good. I'm just going to sweat through this. Why not?
You said, hey, let me wear a denim shirt in the summer. Let me just do that.
Dude, I was really on Adorama, not hot ones. Okay? You might as well start passing the wing.
You want to do that? We can do that.
And I'm going to have you look towards me. And so right now I'm just basically looking until I see this shadow on that side of her face, and it kind of creates this little triangle. You're doing a fantastic job at this, by the way.
You want this?
No, I'm fine. It's okay.
You look fun. You all right?
This.
We're gonna have a bad night.
I'm not gonna pass out. It's just.
Hey
It's
Teresa,
hot,
can you throw the air on?
I mean, look at
So
him.
Ab doesn't
He's
pass
spread out. Everybody's getting a little verklempt in here, little, you know.
Don't use my Yiddish.
I'm just saying, I'm a little verklempt right now. Okay. Okay. Oh, I'm gonna use it.
There we go.
That's just the light. That's the fan on my light just firing up. So having you look at me, let me bring you the box so it's easier to kind of stay straight. Perfect. I'm going to take a light meter reading. Again, I'm going to meter towards the light because I'm worried about the hot spots. It would help if I turn the light meter on. Perfect. So here I'm at I'm at 4.8. I'm going to go to 5.6. Well, F8 again. Perfect. And I'm gonna have you look right towards me. So the position of your head here is really important. So I'm going for this triangle on this side of your eye. So you want to kind of keep your head relatively straight due to the way I have the light position. Yes, perfect. And so now to show you guys Rembrandt. You can add a little spice to it, a little angle to the face. Love that. And so now we have, so now we have Rembrandt lighting because now we have this shadow on the left-hand side of her face. But what I want to do is like we did before, I'm going to add my fill light back in. And I believe that's where it was. I'm going to add the fill light in back with my gel. I use a gel because I like the fill light's a little cooler. And you guys can see it better in terms of like the before and afters. At least I think you can. And I just like this gel. If everybody starts using it, like everybody is using, what's that, Mylar? Like I no longer use Mylar. I've given up. If someone wants me to use Mylar, I tell them open up a peanut butter and jelly sandwich wrapped in tin foil, lay the tin foil on the ground. This joke is going somewhere. I'm losing myself in it. But that's how bad, that's what I think about Mylar. But now we're going to dial our fill light in. Again, just to bring the shadows. We're not going to open up and overexpose everything. I like the fact that everything is very moody. And now we brought our fill light in, but what do I need to remove from this, even though I kind of like the way it looks? Yes. So if I go back here, inside Capture One, I hit reset. You'll see what the image looks like without the vignette. Even though I thought the vignette looked really cool, like we're starting to get to like flannel magazine, you know? But again, now I just bring in my fill light to open up the shadows. And then I'm also gonna bring back in our edge light. And I'm gonna leave the edge light where it is, because I remember we got like this little spill on the background. So I'm gonna still see if I pick up a little bit of that. And now we see the same shot where we get like a little bit of edge light, so we start to get that separation. And again, this is Rembrandt lighting. I'm gonna have you turn your face towards me more, so we get less of that light kind of on your face. Perfect. But it's Rembrandt lighting with a little bit more spice added in. I started adding in these other lights. Did that one come through? Give me 1 second, I'm just double checking my tether. Okay, we're back, we're good to go. And there's the image that I shot before. And so now it's easy to see. I'm gonna go back to just Rembrandt lighting, and we're gonna add that to our portfolio. Meaning going back to just Rembrandt lighting, I'm gonna turn my fill light and my accent light off. And so now we're just gonna do these. And for these, you can stay seated, and these just be like beauty. And so these give me like a combination of like eyes open, eyes closed. But you always wanna keep your head positioned towards me. You can incorporate hands, but never turn your head too much towards the light, or it'll start to lose this triangle. Well, let me take a shot straight on and let me illustrate on the screen exactly what I'm going for. So you see this shadow right here on this side of your face? I want to make sure I don't lose that. So if you turn your nose too far that way, I'll lose it. But like chin up and chin down is okay. But just try not to turn your face too much towards there. And ideally straight on is good. Perfect. And so now we're going to go for these really dark and moody images. And I do want to add a little bit of separation. So I'm basically going to take this and I'm going to point it towards the background now. So it's now going to become our background light. And I'm going to like this so much, I'm probably going to have her stand up because then the background will kind of start to separate her body from the background. Now I'm going to take a quick light meter reading. And for this one, if this light's at F8, I'm going to bring our background probably 2 stops below. And continue to build our portfolio. One second. I went to the wrong screen. I'm going to take a light meter reading back here. I'm at F4. So now it's 2 stops below our main light. And I'm going to bring it 2.5 stops below. Just because I just want a little bit of separation. Before I have you get up, I'm going to do a quick test, just so you don't have to stand for too long. I'm going to widen up to where I feel like our frame is going to be. Perfect. Now, see, I have like that nice warm glow back there. I'm okay with where it's positioned because I know I'm basically going to have her stand up, so she's going to be positioned a little higher. So if you don't mind, I'm going to have you stand up. And I'll move the chair out of the way. I'll move the apple box out of the way. I'm going to have you come back into this light. Let me turn our main light back on. I'm going to raise this up just a touch. And I need you to stand. So I want your body going that way. And keep your face as straight towards me as possible. Even more? Even if you have to, yes, perfect. So I can still kind of get this Rembrandt effect. Now I'm going to bring this, I'm wrapping this light around a little bit more. And I'm going to have you turn your head towards me even a little bit more. Perfect. What do you want to laugh? And turn your head towards me just a touch more. Beautiful. And so now you're going to look towards me and kind of have your hands on the belly. Perfect. And I can already tell I'm going to want to bring that light down just a little bit, foreshadowing from what I see before. And since I don't have a shorter stand on this one, I'm basically just going to tilt it down. No, I'm good. That's always back there, but this will work. And then to be safe, I'm going to bring that fill light up another half a stop. It was at power 5.2. I'm going to go to power 5.7. And now we're going to start working on our portfolio. Beautiful. There's a bright spot there, and I think it's the light coming from this hitting the background. So I think I'm actually going to go without our edge light. I'm just going to go with our main light, because now that I change its position, it's kind of spilling, giving me like a weird shadow. And to solve the problem of bringing her off the background, so what happened here is this upper left-hand corner, this shadow was like this highlight versus this shadow. I don't like it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually turn this back and use it as an edge light. Because I feel like the fact that she's pregnant, we're not showing that off well if there's no light hitting her. So I'm going to turn this way. I'm going to turn our edge light back on. And again, I want to see more of this triangle under your eyes. So you're going to bring your face more towards me. Even more. Yeah, right there. Perfect. Even a little bit more if you can. There's like a maraca inside the air conditioner now.
Keeps me company.
Perfect. And due to the fact that her dress is so dark, I'm probably going to amp that light up even more, even though I really like the way the light looks on her face. But another way I can solve this problem is if you just put that hand on top of your stomach, so I have something light there to see, and then bring the other hand underneath. Perfect. So here, I'm trying to solve the problem of shape by bringing her hands in to catch more highlight. And so that's helping a little bit. But I think ultimately here, I'm going to turn our fill light back on as well. Because I'm not 100% happy with that image. And I think that she doesn't look that pregnant in it. So now we're going to go back. Because it was so dark because of the shadows. Now I'm going to open up. Face towards me a little bit more. And now I just want a tight shot of your face so we can see the Rembrandt lighting. Face towards me a little bit more. Perfect. A little bit more. Even more. Beautiful job. And so the shadow over here is being eliminated due to the fact that I have that fill light there. But that's where we're going to break the rules a little bit. But ultimately, this was Rembrandt lighting, where you see this triangle right here underneath her chin, which ultimately just adds more dimension to the image. And I'm going to go back to that. I'm just going to kill our edge light so you guys can see it play out. And for this, we're just going to crop and make it beauty because I feel like the dress is just blending in too much. Another way I would have solved this problem was simply changing the wardrobe. But now we're going to go back to dead on, and I'm going to make these more beauty. So you can turn your whole body towards me. Perfect. And that looks great. And you can incorporate hands into the face. And I'm going to move this to the side. And you can bring your face even more straight on so I get that little triangle shadow. Oh, highlight. Beautiful. Perfect. Now let's ride that out for like 10 shots. Beautiful.
Keep my hands on the face, or?
Yeah, you can feel free to do that. Like even turn away, eyes closed. You can kind of play with it. But I don't see your hands. I'm cropping right here.
Oh.
Love that. And one more looking at me, just so we can kind of, and bring your face back towards me, even straighter. Even straighter, perfect. So you can kind of see that we can end with some classic Rembrandt light. You can bring your head that way just a little bit more. Perfect. Love. Perfect. So here's an example of what I would say this is like perfect Rembrandt light here. And then just bringing in our fill light to open up the shadows just a little bit more. I actually like this one a lot. And again, this is one of those in which I probably did a wardrobe change if I want to bring things out. I try not to overlight things to solve problems, and sometimes it's just an art direction thing, or changing wardrobes. You have different options, and you don't have to change the light too much. So next we're gonna go to split lighting, because split lighting we can easily turn into broad lighting as well, and really talk about how head position plays a role in different lighting patterns. Split lighting isn't my favorite, and basically what it is we're just gonna light one side of the face, and the other side of the face is gonna fall perfectly into shadow. And for this, I'm gonna bring the light. I'm gonna have you step forward just a little bit. Actually, I can have you sit down for these. We'll keep these just on the face. And here's our apple box. And if you guys have any questions, let me know. Or if you just like to watch me work, I'm okay with that. Perfect. And then for split lighting, basically I only want this side of your face lit. So you'll always keep your face straight on these. And on this one, like not even any angles at all.
Straight on.
Yeah. So for split lighting, I'm not gonna stay here too long, so it's not one of my favorites, unless I see something and really like it. Again, I'm just gonna come back and remeter so that we're not looking at a bad exposure. We're 8.9, so we're a little hot. I'm gonna take out about a half a stop. Perfect. Yep. And so now we'll get an idea of what split lighting looks like. So you look directly towards me. Perfect. And you see there, we just light the side of the face. And here's where I'd really start to incorporate my fill light. Again, to bring up the shadows. Because most people look at that and say it's underexposed. It's just lit the way that it's lit, but it's properly exposed. And using our fill light to bring up our shadows. And if I wanted a more neutral fill light, that's where I would take off the gel. I just really like the way that the gel looks. Now, what happens when I take off the gel is I probably gained about maybe 3/4 of a stop to a full stop of exposure. So I know to turn that down because the gel was eating up some light and looking right at me. And if I was working for someone else, I would remeter that. But mentally, I just kind of knew to turn it down as much as I did. And you can see the effects of split lighting. But also when it comes to using a gel, do you see the difference in those two images by just having a gel here? It's a completely different image. And so when you're shooting, again, I talk to myself in complete sentences. Anytime I see a problem, I compartmentalize what the problem is. I form a complete sentence as how I'm going to solve it. And then I pull the different little levers to do it. Instead of like running around shooting like crazy trying to figure out exactly what's going on. If you can't recognize what the problem is and tell yourself in a complete sentence what it is, don't try to solve it by just arbitrarily pulling levers, because that's how you sink the ship. Like you're driving a ship, you're not going to just pull something not knowing what it's doing. I think photography is the same way. One of the things you'll see when I shoot, there's not a lot of bad frames. And it's only because I'm putting thought into everything that I'm doing. Like when I see people shoot at workshops, and I'll end it here because I know sometimes people use the camera as a way of communicating instead of communicating what you want based on trying to solve a problem. And so I see a lot of people when they're shooting, they do one of these. And I'm just like, why would you waste that many frames? Every frame should count. And so ultimately, when I think of lighting patterns, it helps me relay where I want the light relative to the position of someone's face, especially if I'm working with someone else on set. Do you have to memorize them? No. If you're in the studio and you want to know the effects of what a different light shaper does, or if you just want to experiment and see if you're pulling the lever of the position of the light relative to the face, what it changes, then it's a great way to practice. It's a great exercise. Don't feel like you have to memorize them. I was writing them down. You guys are too easy. Well, thank you guys for coming out today. Definitely give a hand for our model, Dashani. And last but not least, we were able to quickly put a portfolio together, even though I was in this very hot, this very small.
Oh my God. You guys come to my next demo. What to do when your photographer does nothing but cry all the whole session.
But going through and just putting some of our final images on screen, we were able to easily put a portfolio together with just pulling some really small levers. You don't need a lot of space. I think people just need to think differently about taking pictures in terms of what am I actually trying to accomplish. If you can talk to yourself, be your own best friend, Seth is very used to this. Then, you know, I think
some of us don't have entire teams.
I think this will be very, very, very successful. So thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Thank you.